G'day guys, Ed Girls of course. This one's for the carpenters and the builders. Some people like to line their joists and their studs up in one go. Now what I'm going to do is just quickly draw a rectangle. There's no particular size here, and I'm going to show you what the question I've been asked is. I'm going to put some joists in here, and I'm going to make these joists at a spacing, so 450, which is 16 on center, or 600 could be 24 on center, wouldn't matter. I'm going to make it 600 centers, okay, and go submit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give my joist a direction, okay, and you'll notice there that I have my joist at a spacing. However, you'll notice over here that I have a discrepancy. The spacing is less because the maximum span of the joist to suit sheet sizes, which is the size of the sheet that goes on it, works so that they work in a pattern and saves you cutting a sheet. And you probably realise that if you've ever put down a sheet flooring. So Plusspec has to decide which end to draw its joist at 600 centres from, or 24 on centre. However, when I go and do my walls, if I go around here and I start my wall here, or obviously I'm going to try and line my studs up to 600 centres. Here we go, timber and lumber sizes, 600 centres, and go submit. Now it could be 35 or 45, doesn't matter, whatever timber size you want to use. Right, go submit. I'm going to quickly just draw in a loop the way that most people would probably draw walls, because it's faster. However, when you're building it, you actually do it a little bit different, and I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to quickly just create some scenes so I can see my framework and we can explain how to line the joists up in two different ways. So submit. And up the top here, I should come across with structure. Yep, okay. Right, on that side of the joist there, I don't have a line up. However, on this side of the joist, I do have my wall frames lining up with my studs. My joist lining up with my studs. So I've got a 600 centre to start, and here I have 582. It's half the thickness of the stud is the reason why it's done that. Okay. Now we all know that we don't miter joints. However, it's actually not a bad way to build because you can tell which is the inside and the outside of the frame. So you know what, I wouldn't discount that. Lining up frames is a good way to do it. But so realistically, if I just say move these joists over to here, how do we actually build this? Let's have a look. We actually start our walls like this. And if you're ever going to do a frame layout so that your carpenters on site can actually build with square ends, this is how I would do it. Okay, submit. The maximum length of timber you can buy in Australia, and most of the way around the world, 24 foot or whatever it is, the maximum length in Australia is 6 metres. So I'm going to write in my first measurement of 6 metres. That's 6, 1, 2, 3, enter. Okay? And then I would go, well, am I over 6 metres? And the last I am, so I'm going to go 6, 1, 2, 3, enter. And when I get to the end of my wall, I'm actually going to double click. The reason being is that we cut all of our frames square. Okay, and the same thing here. I'm not sure how long this is. It's longer then, so I'm going to go 6. And you can make it 4.8 or whatever it is that you want to do. Double click, and I'm actually building the frames or drawing the frames the way I would build them. Same again. Now I might go back and do this one again in a second. Double click, and here I'm just going to, I think you get that picture on this, so let's not waste your time here. All busy people, I'm sure. Okay, but I wanted my frames to line up with my joists. So really what should have happened is the 600 centre should have worked back this way. Knowing that I only need 3 frames, it doesn't really matter whether they're 6 metres as long as they're a length according to my joists. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to delete these walls here because they're on the opposite side. Plusspec is starting the way I draw and it's starting my centre from the way I draw. And I hope that explains why it does that. I'm going to go in and draw my wall. I've set up a shortcut W for walls. Okay, submit. I'm going to draw my first wall to here, right? And now I'm going to go 6 meters. And then I'm going to go to the end of my wall. Oops, I actually clicked. If you ever make a mistake like that, just push delete and it will go back. Okay. And now you see that all of my frames line up with my studs. All I did was basically made my shorter wall start from that end. Some countries, for instance America, doesn't actually, they actually use this type of stud like this, and they might put trimmers in between, and I'm not sure if this version's got it. Walls, no, but the next version of Plusspec will have it. You can add timber to walls and you can create whatever type of corner that you want to do. So I hope that helps out. Now, one thing that really messes up these spacings here is windows. So you might not be able to go 6 meters, 6 meters. You might have to make it suit whatever, because when I put a window in, you'll notice some changes here, guys, too, because this is the next version of Plusspec that's coming out. Standard size windows is probably something that a lot of people have done, and you're probably the first to see it because the first time I showed it. Standard size windows usually work to brickwork. Okay, you don't have to use standard size windows. You can go back to custom size windows, and away you go. But I'm going to go to a standard size window here, and I'm going to go and put my window in. Where is it? Now, an architect doesn't care how your studs and framing works. He just cares how it works with the sun or someone. As soon as I did that, I've now thrown out my spacing again, because Plusspec works out the cheapest way to build that wall, which is basically 600 centers, 600 centers. Oh, hold on. Let's start 600 again, because that's the least amount of timber that goes into the wall. You might not like the way that that works, and look, we're open to comments, guys, and we can add different functionalities to make that work differently. But there's a good and bad reason for this. Is number one, it costs less in lumber. However, when you're doing your sheathing on the outside, your sheathing is going to have to be cut to suit the stud spacing. So, look, happy to take advice on that one. I hope it explains why your studs work out one way and not the other. It's basically because you're drawing clockwise. However, if you're actually creating a real frame, and I'm just going to go top down here. So say I was going to make this into a frame layout, view, parallel project, camera, parallel projection. I can now see where all the joins are in my frames. If I label my frames, they'll have numbers on them, right? And if I actually wanted to do this into a frame layout for a prefabricated manufacturer, my walls are numbered according to the way they are. But even if you're building them on site, it's nice to be able to say, well, wall 9 is this. And probably another helpful tip that I use a lot, and I'll show you this in a second, is how to get those individual spit outs for every individual wall. Okay, so I can go and dimension from here. I use the shortcut D for dimensioning, which you can set up in Windows preferences and so on. Windows preferences shortcuts. Okay, and this wall actually starts from here, right? If you go into, say, a black and white view, it probably makes it a little bit clearer. You can color by layer, you can do a whole heap of different things to highlight these frames. You can run a section cut, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. And now I can see, well, I'm going to cut bottom plate, top plate 6 meters, bottom plate, top plate 6 meters, and I got 1556. If I wanted to actually get these individual walls into a separate template, so I might say, I want to just print wall 5 by itself. What you can do is you can right-click the walls, you can select the connected walls. Okay, it's only connected what I did there. I'm just pushing Shift and I'm selecting them manually. This one here, I'm just going to deselect this one here. I'm going to hide these walls, hide, and I'm going to hide my floor as well, because all I want in my takeoff is just this wall and the timber inside or the lumber inside of it. If I do a takeoff, bang, all I have is in my framing, the lumber that's associated just with that piece of framing. Now I am using a beta version here, guys. It actually picked up this here. I should have actually got rid of this hide, because you'll notice when I do my takeoff now, it'll only give me just the framing inside of that wall, and I can call it wall 5. I can call it whatever I want it to do, wall 5, and then just go export Excel and then copy and paste into Excel, or whatever I want to do. It's a good way to just say, okay, well, you can get an apprentice, say, go and cut all of these lengths. This is the size lumber you're going to cut. You're going to cut 3 at 6 metres, you're going to cut 11 at 2 metres 635, and 16 at 565, and 4 at 5 metres 400. It's very, very quick and easy way to do it. So I'm not sure if you thought of that. I do it that way, and obviously I'm going to go Control Z, bring those walls back again, and all I do is I can actually go Control A, which selects all, and then I can just Shift and deselect that one there and go hide again. It's just a quicker way to do it. Okay, and now I've got the next wall. So if I do a takeoff of the next wall, I now have my wall 6. Right, and there's everything that's involved in the wall 6, including the header that you're going to use for the window. So it's a really good way to do a frame layout and setup, and it's a good way to also do it. And you might say, well, I don't want to wreck the rest of my model, because there is a problem. I'm going to go Control Z again. Control Z. Oops, sorry, that was Shift Z. Control Z. Okay, here's the problem. I go to all, and you'll notice that it hasn't clad the end of the wall. So really all I'm doing is just a frame layout. So I'd usually just copy all of my frames into another one and say, okay, call this file save as wall frame cut list, and save. Now I'm going to show you another little trick, because this is kind of handy. This can save you a lot of money on site. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go Control A. I'm going to deselect the next wall. Right. I'm going to hide the rest of the model. Hide. Okay. I can actually create a scene, so I can go here, right click, add, and in this scene I can call it wall 7. Okay, and now I've called that wall 7. Every time I want to go back, I can find that wall, provided I have hidden geometry ticked. Right click, update. Okay, and now I can go Control Z again, and here would be wall 8. Right, so I'm going to go Control A, select all, deselect wall 8, and then go hide. I've set up a keyboard shortcut as H. I can go right click, add, call it wall 8, and save it. Now I can actually quickly go through and print individual walls as I go, or take off individual walls as I go. Right, so Control A again, I'll just do wall 9. Right, right click, add, call it wall 9 so you don't forget. Right, and then obviously do a takeoff. So you'll see the difference here. If I do my takeoff now, this is wall 9, call it wall 9. And if you're lazy, which sometimes I am known to be, you can simply just go and screen capture this and just make as many screen captures as you want. I might have some screen capture program over here. Go plus, screen capture this one. This is all the information that I need. It's wall 9, and then I'll go plus again, and I'll go back to wall 8, which is the previous takeoff here. It's wall 6. Doesn't matter. You'll get the idea here. And I go plus again, and you can just go and print them all individually without having to go to Excel and without having to worry about messing around. Alright, get back to my model. I hope that helps out, guys. Look, watch it back over a couple of times. If you've got any questions, by all means ask. Cheers.